everybody out there, and welcome back to Comic Frontline. I'm Chris, and you're here with me once again for another comic book review. And in this video, as you can see from the title above me or the image floating on this side of the screen, I'll be reviewing Batman the Shadow, issue number 1. And before we get into Batman the Shadow issue number 1, I got to give you guys two things. Number 1, got some preview artwork going on this side of the screen right now. And number 2, you guys know the drill, spoiler alert. I will be talking a lot about the stuff that happens within the pages of Batman the Shadow. And if you don't want any spoilers, if you haven't read issue number 1 yet, you might want to take this video, pause it, put it in your watch later file, and come back later. However, I always like to give a non-spoiler overview of the book before I go into the spoilers and go deeper within the book. That's why my reviews are a wee bit longer than the normal reviews. I like to give a little bit of an overview for people who didn't pick it up. Maybe there's somebody out there on the fence about whether they should or shouldn't pick up Batman the Shadow issue number 1. This overview is for you guys. So this way you can say, that sounds interesting. Maybe I do want to go check this book out before I hear a spoiler-esque review on it. Or maybe you'll want to hear the spoilers too. Who knows? But I like to give the people who don't want spoilers but want an overview their chance at hearing what the book's like before, so this way they can go check it out for themselves if they want before we give spoilers. So anyway, non-spoiler overview for Batman the Shadow issue number 1. I enjoyed this issue a lot. If you're a fan of Batman, if you're a fan of the Shadow, you will enjoy this issue. The artwork is very unique. It definitely gives me the feel of the Shadow, but at the same time, I like the way Batman's drawn in this. I like the way the artwork is formatted. The splash pages are awesome. There should be some in the preview art that showed up on the side of the screen. I really enjoyed it. This book is actually, I got to point this out. It's written by Scott Snyder and Steve Orlando. And the art is by Riley Rossmo. I apologize if I'm saying your last name wrong. I really am. But I really did enjoy the artwork in this book. And an overview of the story is a death happens in Gotham. And Batman is on the case. And of course, it's Batman the Shadow. He crosses paths with the Shadow. Epic fight happens, and then Batman goes into detective mode to try to find the Shadow and find a way to defeat the Shadow because, misunderstanding, of course, he believes the Shadow is the murderer because it was just a fight they had. And now there's a lot of really great stuff that precedes him finding out about the murder victim and finding out about the Shadow and the similarities and how they're kind of possibly related. Really awesome stuff. I really did enjoy reading this book. I would definitely say if you are interested in checking this out, definitely go out and check out Batman the Shadow issue number 1. Great, interesting read. And I gotta say, the last page left me at the edge of my seat. I got to the last page. Wasn't even expecting the to be continued yet. I was like, okay, the way this is, there's one more page. That was it. I was like, no, you can't. But they did. They leave you off with a very good cliffhanger. And that's a huge plus as well, because that makes you want to come back and get issue 2. And I definitely will be getting issue 2. I love the Shadow and I love Batman. So, spoiler time. So here's your spoiler alert. Wingy finger. Book opens up with Bruce going back to his old teacher, Ducard. He's the guy that gave Bruce all of his skills, taught him how to be a skilled detective / Batman. And he's there now because he needs Ducard to teach him once again. Because there's, what did he say? He finally found a mystery that he cannot solve, connected with the Shadow. So we then go 2 weeks prior to that, and we are now, 1 week prior to that, and we're now in Arkham Asylum, and there's this worker at Arkham Asylum who's very nice to the inmates, believes they all deserve, not a second chance, but they all deserve, to be treated with dignity and respect, and everybody who works there doesn't understand why he's like that, but he's giving all these different inmates special food, special things to eat. And he's just like wonderful, awesome guy. You'd never think, anything bad of him. He looks like he's just a wonderful soul. So he goes home and he's murdered. And the Shadow in the background looks like the Shadow, but we all know it's not going to end up being the Shadow. But he gets murdered, and you got Batman, who pops in, and Batman's now on the case because he wants to know who killed this person. So he gets a background on who he starts scanning around the apartment looking for clues or whatever, and that's when the Shadow attacks. We get an epic 4 to 5 pages of just non-stop action between Batman and the Shadow fighting back and forth. And, you know, it looks like they're pretty evenly matched because the person who trained Batman, we find out Ducard, also trained the Shadow. And the Shadow knows, as he always says, the Shadow knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne, knows Bruce Wayne's grandfather, knows everything. And then he just disappears. And now Bruce is kind of in a perplexing situation because now he's like, who is the Shadow guy? And he believes he's the murderer of this person who we find out is Lamont Cranston. And then he goes off interviewing people that knew Lamont Cranston. And you get to see a lot of the Shadows. Now remember, this is taking place in present day almost. So all of the characters, all of his supporting cast, like Margot Lane, they're older now or dead. Like the cab driver that used to drive the Shadow or Lamont Cranston around is dead. Now his daughter is on that route. And you see that Margot Lane kind of drops the biggest hint about where Bruce can find the Shadow or Lamont Cranston. Like the whole mystery. I don't want to give you guys the whole mystery. I'll be here for hours explaining. Well, not hours, but I'll be here for a while explaining it. So he ends up going to this hotel, and of course the Shadow knows that he's coming. So he kind of sets up like a defense with the bellhop boy. But Batman finds the Shadow's vault with all of his masks and his armory and all this other stuff. So that's where we jump back to the present where he's with Ducard. And he's like, I need you to teach me because I know you trained the Shadow. I need you to train me to beat him now. And he's like, you think I was the Shadow's teacher? And then, this is the big ending. This is the big finale here. We find Ducard. He changes into the Shadow, and he's left off going, don't worry, you won't have to look, he's like, you're looking for the Shadow? Don't worry. And that's where the Shadow shows up behind Bruce. To be continued. This was a fun read, and I look forward. Obviously, it's classic. Heroes fight each other, and then they're going to team up, get together, and find out who the real bad guy is. I have a feeling the bad guy is either connected to the Shadow, who will also have somebody connected to Batman working with them, or just somebody from the Shadow's background, or one of the rogues from the Shadow's past. I am really looking forward to the next issue. Awesome read. Really enjoyed it. Definitely recommend it for you guys. And with that, that's it for this review. As always, we are Comic Frontline, your #1 source for comic-related news, reviews, and a whole bunch more. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that sub button. This way we're in your sub box, and you do not miss out on a single video. If you read Batman the Shadow, issue #1, we would love to hear what you guys thought of the book. So that is what the comment section below is for. Feel free to let us know in the comments below what you guys thought of Batman the Shadow, issue #1. We look forward to hearing what you guys thought about the book. And until next time, everybody, take care, keep reading, keep collecting, and I'll see you guys really soon in the next video.